In science fiction from the last century, we should now all be living in some kind of grand utopia. Beautiful spaceships should be carrying us around the universe. We should be jumping through wormholes and meeting new alien species. The times of war and unrest on Earth should be things of the past. Alas, history has not gone that way. Instead, nothing seems to have changed in the grand scheme. Nations still invade other nations. Religion still holds sway over billions. Millions of people still starve while others gather in a harvest of riches the majority can only dream of. We kill and devour more and more innocent animals every day, while science is gradually uncovering the truth about the sentience and intelligence of them. We invent and test new drugs on each other on a vast scale.
Right now, some 200 micrograms of my substance have just entered his body. And already my potent molecules are on their way to his brain, where they will trigger some very special chemistry. And in just a few minutes now, I will show him glimpses of distorted beauty, or tumble into a terrifying private hell. But at just this moment, neither he nor I know the direction or destination of the trip we're about to take together.
Like locusts, we are chomping our way through the riches of the earth, without a care in the world. Somebody somewhere in the future will figure it all out and save us, won't they? Millions of years of evolution have brought us to this place, a situation where we are aware of ourselves, what we are doing, and why we do it. And yet we carry on regardless. We are no closer to understanding the one question that has confused us ever since we became conscious: the meaning of life. We have theories about the origin of the universe. We believe it all started with a Big Bang. We have evidence that this is the case. And yet, we have no idea where this singularity, or dynamite, came from. And so we fill in the gap with the same answer we have always used: God. It's a very useful word. It can cover everything easily and needs no explanation. We don't need evidence, we don't need facts. We just need faith. A million and one variations later, and we have yet again divided mankind against itself. It's not an answer that has brought about peace, even if the various religions that are yoked to the God concept claim it is all about love. Where, in scientific terms, does God have to equal love, like E equals mc squared? When the Big Bang occurred, the singularity became divided, chaotic to our ordered minds. When humanity divides, chaos seemingly ensues. Eventually, mathematical beauty began emerging from the chaos as particles formed together, creating form and function.
Matter of the universe was contained in a primordial atom, an unimaginable concentration of elementary particles. In one gigantic detonation, the contents of this cosmic fireball were hurled outward in all directions. After 1,000,000 years of expansion, the universe was an intense blaze of light. Then the radiation cooled, and after hundreds of millions of years, great clouds of hydrogen gas began contracting, and in time, evolved into the galaxies we now observe. Inside these galactic whirlpools, smaller fields of gravity condense hydrogen into stars. Stars are inconceivably hot. So hot, they sustain thermonuclear reactions that transform hydrogen into heavier elements. Sometimes their hydrogen fuel burns so fast, they flare out in violent explosions, hurling new elements across space. Like a great wind, the radiant energy of starlight drives these clouds of dust and gas throughout the galaxy. Out of these clouds evolve new generations of stars. More than half the stars in our galaxy travel in groups of 2 or more, orbiting around a common center of gravity. Like galactic comets, immense clusters of stars swing in and out of the galaxy in vast, eccentric paths.
Opposites attracted, male and female coming together to create a singularity. Over the course of human history, man noticed the subtle similarities in nature, reoccurring ratios, the way a tree has branches in the air and the same beneath the ground, the way this looks like the nervous system of the human body, the orb of the sun, the eye of man. He created sciences to understand and explain. Sacred geometry sparked the imagination. Ratio was discovered. Our undying faith in the Creator, our parent, has found a pattern itself. For just as a child who does not know its parents will seek them out, so too we have sought to discover God. Science, we say, will help us to find God. The early scientists, such as those derived from the ancient society of Rosicrucians, actually stated this as their goal. To observe, define and measure nature was to do the same to God, for God is all and in all. The purpose of science was to know more of God. Hundreds of years later, and we have refined the tools of science. Computer technology has speeded up the process. The science now is almost like the religions of ages past. It has its own unique language. To understand it, we have to become a priest of the science. Great scientists are like popes. People see in them somebody who understands God, creation, our own existence, and we look to them to explain God or nature in simple terms for us. The language, the immensity of the universe, the humble origins, consciousness, all these things and more make science an esoteric subject, occult even, unknown to the eye that cannot behold.
Now, 50 years after the creation of NASA, our goal is no longer just a destination to reach. Our goal is the capacity for people to work and learn and operate and live safely beyond the Earth for extended periods of time, ultimately in ways that are more sustainable and even indefinite.
To understand it all, we have had to divide again. We have broken down existence into a series of understandable parts and given each part a name. Biological, chemical, electrical, geographical, astronomical, and more. In each of these we have created further divisions. And yet, when all is broken apart, it all comes back to the same thing. It all reduces down to the smallest common factor, and we call it a particle. To move forward, we must come to an understanding of what a particle is. A particle is a minute piece of matter. They make up all the matter in the universe. An elementary particle is simply one that cannot be broken down any further. It is the smallest of the small. To make all the different kinds of matter that exists, there has to be many kinds of particles, different sizes and properties such as motion. The three famous particles are proton, neutron and electron, and these make atoms. A proton has a positive electrical charge, a neutron and electron a negative charge. Inside each atom there is a nucleus, like a sun in the centre of the solar system. Protons, neutrons and electrons orbit around the nucleus as planets orbit around the sun. a pattern, a mould, a system that is universal, seen from the macro to the micro. These patterns and ratios are the reason we see similarities all around us. Protons and neurons are made up of yet smaller parts called quarks. There are 6 known quarks, and all differ. Scientists have given them names: the up quark, the down quark, the strange quark, the charm, bottom and top quarks. Each particle carries a fundamental force. A photon, for instance, carries an electromagnetic force. There are 4 fundamental forces: gravity, magnetism, and strong and weak radioactive decay. Scientists defined a thing called a standard model of particle physics. It is a theory that attempts to explain the fundamental forces. Along with Einstein's theory of general relativity, scientists tend to accept it as the truth to how the universe works. There are problems with the theory that scientists are working on. It doesn't explain gravity, for instance. A lot of particles break apart and reveal or create even smaller particles. Sometimes they can be very hard to detect because they decay incredibly fast. Those particles that do not break apart are fundamental particles because they are already at their smallest state. The standard model scientists discovered states that there are 16 fundamental particles, although with antimatter thrown in, this doubles in number. All things in existence are made of particles. How many particles, what kind, how they move and how fast, all of these questions and more explain all existence for us. And yet, no matter how much we smash apart atoms to reveal the inner world of particles, we still come no closer to understanding the original question: what is the meaning of life? Enter an idea, a hypothetical particle that was believed to exist that may have explained a whole lot more. An idea from the mind of a physicist at Edinburgh University called Peter Higgs. The idea was in reality a theory and needed faith. For decades, physicists had faith in the theory, but no proof. In 2012, they got their proof. It cost billions of dollars. Higgs boson, also known as the Higgs particle or even God's particle. It was believed that a field exists that permeates space and gives all particles mass by interacting with them. Both the field and the particle were named after Higgs. It was important because it explained how particles got their mass, something that was eluding scientists. This Higgs field was said to have no direction like a normal field, such as electromagnetism, which has a force and direction. If true, then something was missing, a carrier particle that had its own intrinsic motion or spin of absolutely nothing. Electromagnetic particles have spin and hence motion. The Higgs field was said to have higher energy when at this zero than when at non-zero. Particles must therefore get their mass by interacting with the Higgs field only when there is less energy, such as just after the Big Bang when it began to cool. Without the discovery of the Higgs boson, the Higgs field could not be proven. The Higgs boson, then, is a particle that gives mass to other particles. A boson is the name given to particles that are responsible for all the physical forces except gravity. As a particle passes through the Higgs field, the Higgs boson gives them mass and they slow down. Like taking a tray of balls that roll around freely and adding treacle, they slow down and their mass increases. The normal way of proving a particle's existence is to actually create one under the right conditions. To do this, a large donut-shaped accelerator is built that uses electromagnetism to throw particles around at incredible speeds. A normal particle collider didn't have enough energy because the Higgs boson had so much mass. And so the Large Hadron Collider at CERN was created. By smashing together particles, it was believed a Higgs boson would be created.
This was the moment scientists had waited more than 25 years to see.
Good morning everybody, welcome to Startup Day. We had a number of issues that we still had to sort out from this time yesterday morning. We have 2 beams available, so we're going to start with beam 1 into the L8C at point 2, and then finally we take this out and see if the beam manages to circulate. So that's the plan, we'll see how it pans out.
Welcome to a very important day at CERN, the day the first proton beam will be fired around its massive new particle accelerator, the Large Hadron Collider. It has never been done before. What are we going to see today? I cannot tell you at this point, but it will be an exciting day, and we sincerely hope that the proton beam will make its first lap around the 27-kilometer ring of the LHC.
Aujourd'hui est un grand jour pour le CERN.
On vous invite de suivre avec nous en direct le démarrage de cet grand appareil scientifique. get started, everybody. 1, 0. Nothing. Yes, sir. Yes. The beam is now halfway around the LHC. It's gone through 2 experiments, the ALICE experiment and the CMS. Now we are at point 6 and we're making some corrections.
I want to congratulate CERN, the Director General, Robert Aymar, for having really organized this worldwide event.
We have the protons round to the right.
The achievement of more than 20 years of hard work by a lot of scientists from all over the world.
Energy is not created and cannot be destroyed under our standard laws. Instead, it can only be transferred. By literally throwing a particle, we create kinetic energy or movement. This particle then interacts with the Higgs field and gains mass. It slows down. The movement energy is therefore reduced but not destroyed. It converts into mass energy, or the mass that comes from the energy. This mass is the Higgs boson. All of this creation of mass has an equation made famous by Albert Einstein. E equals mc squared. Energy is equal to mass squared. The amount of energy to create a Higgs boson is equivalent to the energy used by the whole world for 80 minutes. In March 2013, scientists finally proved the existence of the Higgs boson, or God's particle.
The machine put in the first beam, 2 minutes later the second beam, and suddenly the experiment started ticking. So even before the computers realized that we had the first event, already the people in the counting room knew that something was happening. We see here the collision happened at this point, and you see all the tracks going out. All these are the signals from the detectors, whether everything works as it should, and it looks actually quite fine. So now the fun starts, now the physics starts.
One. 1 million. 1 million? Yeah. 1 million trigger. Écoute, on a une amélioration du taux de comptage par rapport à on a des événements plus.
Honestly speaking, not. But you see, I'm smiling. I'm extremely happy that collision took place tonight. To me, it's a perfect proof that we have working detector, we have a beautiful collaboration which is necessary to make beauty physics. This is the main proof to me.
This is the first collision event that we've seen in CMS, so it's a very interesting moment as well. So you can see that the inner tracker of the CMS detector, the central part was off, the outer bits were on. In red is the electromagnetic calorimeter, so this is lead tungsten crystals, and the height of these towers tells you the amount of energy that has been deposited in these crystals. Blue is the hadron calorimeter, and these are different views of the same event. And here you can see the cylindrical nature of CMS, and you can see the energy being distributed all over the place. The two protons have collided in the heart of the experiment.
And now you are asking yourself, what has this got to do with God? The short answer is nothing. Most scientists do not like the title because the fact is the Higgs boson explains or confirms just one of their theories. Even Higgs himself disliked it. Yes, it is important in the understanding of existence, how it works, but it does not and never will explain why. The fact is simple. We have just spent billions of dollars to prove the theories of a few scientists. Using our modern technology, our tools of the scientific trade, we have distanced ordinary man yet further from something that is in fact very simple and has been known for millennia. If there is a God, then everything is God. Breaking it down into ever smaller elements simply breaks it down into ever smaller elements. It does not explain God, but it may reveal God a little more, whatever God is. One of the forces predicted by Einstein was the gravitational wave. It was a theory never proven. That was until 2014, when it was finally observed by a team of scientists using a telescope at the South Pole. Some physicists claim that the discovery is bigger than that of the Higgs boson. A spectacular and profound breakthrough, they say. In short, it proves that the universe actually went through a period of very quick inflation milliseconds after the Big Bang. But why is this so spectacular? Because, for scientists, it finally proves the theories about the Big Bang and helps them understand the universe in a more finite way. Is it yet more of science's encroachment into the metaphysical world? Physicist Lawrence Krauss of Arizona State University thinks so. He said, "These results are allowing us to not only address physical questions, but to turn to previously metaphysical questions into scientific ones, such as why is there something rather than nothing?" The results were in fact kept secret for 3 years while scientists confirmed their discovery. Such was the importance. Another one of those bizarre moments in science is that thing you hear about on Star Trek, dark matter. In the 1990s, it was believed that the expanding universe would one day slow down and collapse in on itself, or what they called the Big Crunch. Gravity, they said, was almost certainly going to slow down the expansion. That was the theory. Then, in 1998, the Hubble Space Telescope spotted a distant supernova which showed that the universe had expanded more slowly in ancient times than today, or in short, the expansion was getting faster. This was completely opposite to the theory, and so they had to rethink. The answer, they said, was dark energy, an energy that could not be seen. If it exists, then it makes up around 68% of the universe, with another 27% being dark matter. Everything else, or the observable universe, makes up around 5%. So, we basically do not know for sure what makes 95% of the universe. What we do know is no longer the norm. In fact, all that we can see and measure is actually in a minority. Dark energy and dark matter is the normal universe. Einstein did actually point out that space is not nothing. It has gravity, for instance. Empty space, he said, possesses its own energy. And because this is a property of space and has nothing to do with anything else, then its energy is not diluted in space. As the universe expands, more and more space emerges, and more energy. This would theoretically make space expand faster as the energy grows, and thus we have an expanding universe that is speeding up, not slowing down. But where does this energy come from? The quantum theory of matter suggests that space is full of virtual or temporary energy particles that form and then disappear. But there are huge problems with this theory, and so it remains a mystery. Some say that dark energy is a dynamic energy fluid, a kind of energy that loves to fill voids. They call it the fifth element. Of course, it could simply be that Einstein's theory of gravity is actually wrong. He has been wrong before. The problem with this is simple. His gravity theories work on every other level. It's possibly easier to say what dark matter is not. It's dark for a start, and so it's not observable. We don't even see dark clouds like we do with normal matter. It's not antimatter because we would see gamma rays like we do with real antimatter. And it's not super huge black holes because we would see the reaction of matter around it being sucked in. So what is it? Nobody knows yet, but the discovery will rock the scientific world, and chances are an awful lot of theories will have to be rethought. If the ratios of nature are anything to go by, then maybe one metaphysical analogy would be to compare the universe to the conscious brain, where we are only aware of a small percentage at any one time. The rest of our brain is working, doing background things, telling muscles to move, listening out for threats, breathing, pumping hearts, and more. But we are unconscious of that vital work. Maybe dark energy and matter are the unconscious elements of the universe, keeping it ticking along, passing on information, oiling the wheels. Perhaps the closest we will ever come to a metaphysical science is quantum mechanics. It is quite simply one of the most confusing sciences ever dreamed up by man. And yet, you may find that if you have a metaphysical mind, you will actually understand it better. The concepts of quantum physics can seem quite bizarre. It reveals how particles can be in more places than one at any given time, and that this can be affected simply by observing. A particle may at any given time appear to be a particle or a wave. Particles seem to travel instantly over any distance, evading Einstein's claim that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. There are no certainties on how a particle will react. They call this the uncertainty principle. It states that when observing a particle, the observer brings a probability wave or state of mind to the observation and affects the particle. By simply measuring, we are giving the measurement. Depending on how we observe, particles can also appear to be waves. This in itself is incredibly strange because particles form mass, an object, whereas a wave is fluid movement. By observing electrons or photons, we see particles. When we don't observe, they react as waves. They have no precise location and exist in what scientists call probability fields. By observing, the probability field collapses and they become particles. Because of all these bizarre concepts, theorists have gone crazy with all manner of ideas about multiple universes and such. And yet, they accuse those who believe in a universal mind, or God, or some other metaphysical concept, of insanity. Maybe they're right, maybe they're not. Maybe gnosis, or inner knowledge, is in fact connected to quantum physics in some way. The ability to stop observing existence from a human perspective and to free the mind may in fact open a quantum realm of consciousness. We are in fact computing millions of things every second. We're just not aware of it. Are you aware of the smell in where you are right now? You are now, because by talking about it, we have raised that awareness into your consciousness. In order to be able to focus, we mentally block millions of things, or we'd go insane. A great many people who have taken drugs, such as LSD, have expressed just such ideas, that they were suddenly aware of the oneness of all things. Our ancestors did pretty much the same thing, to discover God, or find some grand truth, and they left us with a lot of wisdom. Augustine of Hippo in the 5th century explained a simple version of the uncertainty principle when he said, "What is time? If no one asks me, I know. If they ask and I try to explain, I do not know." Marcus Aurelius was a Roman philosopher and Caesar in the 2nd century AD. He had a lot to say and a lot of wisdom. This is one of those profound things he had to say. Constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul, and observe how all things have reference to one perception, the perception of this one living being, and how all things act with one movement, and how all things are the cooperating causes of all things which exist. Observe too the continuous spinning of the thread and the contexture of the web. The universe is one living being, a similar concept to the Gaia philosophy, that the earth is one living breathing organ. The ancient Gnostics said that God was all and in all. To Islam, all things are Allah or God. As above, so below, said the ancient philosopher, and what we see up there in the heavens, we shall discover down there in the realm of the particle. As planets revolve around the sun, so too particles revolve around their own nucleus. Mathematics was the true discovery that unlocked the mystery. Marcus Aurelius was revealing inner wisdom, accumulated over vast periods of time by philosophers and men who observed nature. Many men throughout time have observed nature to gain wisdom. The philosopher Paracelsus, when teaching students, threw out all the books of man and told them to seek the answers out there in the realm of the universe. The cost of this observation? Nothing. Today, with all our so-called advanced technology, we simply deepen the distance of the soul of man from the presence of nature, or what some would call God. How many people in the world truly understand particle physics? And how many of those that do understand it believe they are any closer to God because of it? The truth is that science was originally created as a method of understanding the nature of God by nature, when in fact we are spending billions coming full circle to what our ancestors already knew, that God is nature, God is all is God, and our perception of it does not matter. For all perceptions are those of God, because we are the conscious eyes and ears of the universe. I, for one, do not know whether there is a God. I do not know about the Big Bang started, or if it did. But none of that matters. I do know that all things are connected. All things are one. Not just because we have proven it by science, but because it makes sense. As Marcus said, what means all this? It means we need to keep asking questions. It means we don't need to spend huge amounts of money to impress each other, because intuitively we already know the answers. That intuition is where Einstein and Higgs got their theories from in the first place. Intuition simply means inner teaching. It was a device utilized by our ancestors. The Gnostics used it, and they are called Gnostics for a reason. They had a sense of knowing the truth by connecting themselves to nature and sensing the universe not as being around them or in another place, but by being part of them and them part of it. Breaking apart reality does exactly that, where in fact reality is one and division causes chaos in the mind. If there is a God, then all particles are God. There is no God particle. There is no God field, energy, mass. All things are God. The Bible states the same thing. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh. The beginning was the Word, or energy. It was God. It became flesh, or it evolved eventually into man. It was still God. With this kind of mindset we can be empowered. The energy surging through our body is God's energy. We are God. Not the Hollywood fictional idea of a powerful God that can do as it wishes, but a God that created the laws of nature, of physics, and then eventually, as men, rediscovered them. Good and evil are words created by man. In nature there is life and death, light and dark. They are neither good nor bad. They just are, and they obey the laws of nature, whether we like that fact or not. We now feel so very powerful that we can smash particles into each other with immense force, and yet across the gulf of space, nature is blowing up planets and sucking entire solar systems into black holes. An opposite is always created. On the one hand we can be empowered by technology, and on the other we can see how very feeble we are. True empowerment actually comes from within, and the realization that we are made of the same stuff as that black hole and exploding star. If we regard the universe as one living being, as Marcus Aurelius told us to, then whatever we do to our fellow being, whether man or beast, we are in fact doing to ourselves. When we kill and eat a living sentient being, we eat ourselves. We are a black hole sucking in the universe and spewing it out again at a later date. Today, we have science to explain to us that all of that is true. Energy does not die, it converts. In ages past, those wise ones around the globe who set themselves apart from the ordinary life in order to comprehend such things actually discovered those truths and rediscovered them century after century. Today in our schools we teach our children how to use YouTube, spell properly and do a little math. We rarely take them outside into nature and leave the books behind. We don't show them the sacred geometry of the leaf and how so much can be discovered in that one truth. We don't explain that the stories of our ancestors were in fact teaching mechanisms, how 12 disciples were the zodiacal signs, how the sun appears to die and rises again on the third day, how this story has been told by many civilizations under different parables. We don't, because we don't in fact realise it ourselves. It takes just one generation to lose the ability to cook Grandma's special recipe. Eventually, that recipe becomes a thing of legend and myth. Our ancestors understood all these things. Not all of them, and not all cultures, but many did. Today, there are those who understand, and they are the ones that see no need to spend billions on crashing particles because it will tell them nothing they need to know. They are the ones that would argue for the money to be better spent on helping others, on reducing poverty, sickness, on finding new methods of feeding the masses rather than killing innocent animals with kosher or halal methods and bleeding them slowly to death. They would decry the testing on animals for the vanity of man. They would see no need to fight each other, for that would be to fight with oneself. Instead, they would see ways of living in harmony with the world around them. They would not need a new gadget and gizmo. The earth gives up what we need, but what we desire, we have to wrench from her. Instead, we vote for leaders that were once Hollywood stars. We crave the latest reality TV shows. We hoard like morons. We build nuclear power stations in the way of tsunamis and houses on floodplains. And we refuse to ever learn. In times past, it was the theologians of the world who were asked metaphysical questions about the meaning of life. Today, we seek our answers from the scientists and theoretical physicists. What came before the Big Bang, we ask them. Their answer is more often than not elusive. It's like asking what's south of the South Pole, they say. We used to ask the theologians, if God created everything, then who created God? Are these two questions not the same? Have we not come full circle? The language of the priests used to be esoteric. It was confusing to the listener, and so religion used parables. They simplified the concepts for the ordinary man and woman. Today, the language of the scientist is a speciality, understood only by the initiate. And how do they express their understanding of the universe to us, the ordinary man and woman? They do so in parables. Are our physicists now just a replacement of the priest? Or is the answer to the meaning of life still out there, waiting to be discovered? Or has it been in plain view all along, and we're asking the wrong questions?